Bathsheba was beginning to falter. In the heart of a snow-covered field, Sergeant Tremaine slowed her to a walk, twisted in the saddle, and looked into the darkness and falling snow behind him. Still no sign of the army closing in. Had he lost them? Had they chosen to follow and murder his companions instead? More regret for his conscience to meditate on if that was indeed the case. And if they were already dead, reaching the canal and the barge would be a pointless operation. All he wanted to do was kick flanks and gallop, far and fast, but he knew Bathsheba would collapse in the effort, or lead him directly into another gang of these monsters, and that would mean a pointless, pain-filled end for the both of them. Tremaine looked at his wristwatch. The hands told him it was coming on midnight now. Dawn grew closer each second, but death was coming too, and right now it felt like death was winning the foot race by a mile. Bathsheba stopped of her own accord, shocking Darren into the present. She lowered herself to her knees, and Tremaine had to slip his boots out of the stirrups and dismount. Jumping away as she lowered herself, rolled onto her side, and lay there. Tremaine bent down next to her and felt her breath heaving in her massive chest. She was not dead yet, just spent. A sound reached him first. He rose and looked back across the snow into the dark woods at the field's edge. They began to flow out of the shadows en masse, 50 yards away, slowing their approach when they saw him marooned in the sea of snow by his exhausted mount. The first of them stopped 20 yards away. His compatriots formed up next to him as the army of dead behind them filtered out into the field. So, it would be here then. He would stand and fight. He would not let them take him alive if it could be helped. He pulled his lance over his shoulder and spun it in his hand, then planted the butt end, making sure the shaft was in easy reach. He unsnapped his holster and drew his revolver. He thumbed the catch and double-checked that the cylinder was fully loaded. It was. He drew his saber and held it in his left hand. 6 clean shots, then the lance, then the saber as they closed on him. That would have to be enough. He let the heaviness of the steel in his hands ground him. Tremaine felt tears in his eyes. He heard Bathsheba whinny gently behind him. "It's all right, girl. It's all right." He was glad he would not have to die with her on his conscience, charging her into their blades and teeth to be dragged down and devoured would be an unjust ending for the beautiful creature. She had served him well. He hoped she would outlive him, and only wished he had time to pull her bridle and saddle to set her free. He could see no reason why the monsters would kill her after they had dealt with him. But then again, he had not seen the dead men act with anything approaching reason or mercy since Good Friday's massacre began. He hoped they would pass her by and let her live. That was the best he could do. They kept coming until they were all clear of the trees. There must have been 1,000. There was a breath of stillness. Then, as one, they began advancing toward him at a walk. Tremaine raised his pistol and took careful aim at the foremost man's head. He cocked the hammer. He fired. Bam! The shot flew straight and true. It popped through the dead man's chin. There was a stumble, and the man's feet faltered, and he fell. Then, as if a stone had been heaved into a still pond, echoing out from the fallen man, every single one of 1,000 collapsed into the snow. Tremaine's hand shook. Behind him, Bathsheba twisted her legs beneath her and stood. Tremaine backed away, stunned. The dead men did not move. Darren fumbled his Webley into its holster and sheathed the saber. He grabbed his lance and Bathsheba's reins, then led her away at a jog from the stinking mass of dead men. When they reached the shelter of the woods, he pulled her in and looked past her. The dead men were moving. They stood. Their entire mien had changed. Gone was the disordered mob. Torn from the bodies they had latched onto, the vessels were filled anew. In place of chaos and fury, crisp martial discipline. There was shouting in Latin. Then, in moments, they had all fallen into strict marching order, 4 men abreast. When the sergeants called out, they turned south, crisp and rigid, marching in a regimented column at a steady cadence. The Romans Patrick had told him of in the barn had risen from the dead and were on the march. But they were not pursuing Darren. Something else was calling to them. After the last man disappeared from view, Darren led Bathsheba south for a quarter of an hour. Then he stopped and listened for pursuers. Nothing. He patted Bathsheba's neck, then continued on foot for another mile through the snow-covered fields. He had to stop several times to knock down rough-hewn fencing that demarcated ancient property lines so Bathsheba could make her way through. But the rails fell with the same ease the society which invented them had in the preceding days, collapsing into disordered nothingness. All the man-made boundaries that had seemed so sacrosanct, that had provided the illusion of clear order, had been revealed as ridiculous. What would ultimately come of that revelation, Darren did not know, but the genie was out of the bottle, and shoving it back in did not seem like an option. A short time later, Darren reached the Somme River, several miles east of the city. He checked his watch. Midnight. It would take an hour, perhaps less, to reach the canal and the barge. He fed Bathsheba from his store of grain, then mounted up and rode on. When the Red Maiden reawakened in Leonie's body, Joshua leaned down and nuzzled her. She picked up her saber and stood, then grabbed the saddle horn and pulled herself onto Joshua's back. It took less than 10 minutes for her men to find her. She saw the orange glow of torches in the woods, blinking in and out of existence as they passed through the trees, bobbing up and down through the snowfall until they reached her. The dozen of them wore bloody bodies of Australians and Irishmen, Britons and Frenchmen. Gustafson, Thorson, Eggleston, Colburn, Dagg, and all the rest held torches, trench maces, daggers, officers' sabres, and bayonets. If there was to be no Valhalla of endless feasting with wine flagons and glory to grace their afterlife, they would settle for Ragnarok and a feast of pillage and murder. Either way, the appetites were the same, the only difference being the means of satiation. She turned Joshua south, followed the crone's direction, leading her men on a direct heading for Sainte Marguerite's holy ground, where Caitlin and Francois awaited Adam's return.